Okay, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. It's basically afternoon now. What is it? 1 o'clock. Obviously, yesterday was Eid. So, if anyone was celebrating Eid Mubarak to everyone. Obviously, I'm back with another weekly breakdown. I'm just gonna literally skim through the charts now. So, of course, I'm only going through USD pairs as usual. I'm just going to see what I can find. This is the first time that I'm looking at any pairs for this week as well. I haven't looked at the charts for like a good 3 days now, so we're back on it, back and better. So the first thing I'm going to look at right now is AUDUSD. Now I just want to take into consideration this area right here. So as you can see, this was like a pivotal area for AUDUSD. It decided to break, but it wasn't strong enough to be able to handle it. We can see this wick here, then we've got some momentum going back down. So right now it could be on the move downwards since it wasn't strong enough to break this. Looking for this sort of area right there. So of course we're just going to wait for some sort of entry. Now just looking at it right now, if I just try and connect to the lines, guys, if you can't see anything like directly or clearly, like if you can't see a pattern, just start to play around with it, try and connect the lines so you can see what kind of patterns are forming right now. See, I didn't necessarily see this falling wedge, but when I decide to connect you know, the pivotal points where you can see it here, you actually get these patterns forming for you, and it makes it a lot easier. So if you're someone that can't necessarily pick up a pattern, or you're just new to it, that sort of thing, just play around with it, connect the lines. Obviously, the first two are the most important. You want to connect the first two points like that and first 2 points like that. Everything else that follows is a bit irrelevant, but the first two are the most important to connect, and they will kind of form the basis of your pattern. So as you can see right here, I've literally got these two formed like that. It really depends on where you see the pattern starting to form. Now some people would do it kind of like this, but I don't really see it forming like that. I see that it started from this point here, where we had this big rejection wick. That's kind of where I see this pattern starting to form. So that's where I'm going to start it from. Let's just make it as accurate as possible. Okay, so we've got it like that. So as you can see, we've got this falling wedge. Now, as normal, we're going to wait for the breakout on the 5-minute chart as well. So if I just get it up now, AUDUSD 5-minute. Okay, so right now you can see that it's just kind of deciding what it wants to do. On 5-minute chart, it is kind of all over the place, and you need to really zoom in. But we're literally just going to wait for the 5-minute chart here for the breakout when it decides to. But I'm fairly confident that it's going to break downwards and come back down to this area. That's what we hope anyway, because that would make the most sense. If not, we want to make sure at this point, if it does break, that it does have enough momentum to then carry on upwards. And obviously the 5-minute chart will be able to give us a few hints into that. Lower time frames will be able to give you an idea of whether it's going to be strong enough to break it, or whether another fake out like this is going to happen. So it's just something to take into account. Then we've got Euro USD. So let's just zoom out of this, see what we can find. Now, as you can see, it's literally at this pivotal point as well. So around this area here, which is 1.09933. So this area, we've got this kind of triple top forming here. And it decided to plummet down. Didn't even want to try and break out. It was like a really shit attempt to break out. Everyone said, no, we don't want to even bother with that one. So right now we're just waiting to see whether it wants to come all the way back down to here like it has before. So to like back down to this area here, as it has every time before. So as you can see, it's hit it, come down, hit it, come down. So whether or not this one is going to hit it and come down, we've got to wait and see. If it does decide not to come down and hit it here, it's going to be a good indication that it might have the actual momentum to break out of this kind of range that we've got going on here. But then you need to remember, ideas of manipulation, distribution, accumulation, that sort of thing. So just remember that if it does break out, it's most likely going to be a fake out, and then it's going to continue ranging before dropping. Let's just have a look at it to see what it is doing. Yeah, so it is most likely going to drop. If we just zoom out a bit more onto the daily. So as you can see, it's literally been dropping for the last year, 2 years, and it's most likely to come down to these areas down here. So let's just mark that in. It's probably most likely pushing for these areas here, which is actually not that far away. When you look at it on the daily chart, it looks like it's far away, but it's really not that far away. So my thoughts on this is that it's going to push upwards here around this area. As you can see, it's kind of, when it's come to these areas before, it's used it as a resistance, but right now it could be using it as a support to push upwards, fake out, and then come all the way down to here. And that's ideally what we want to happen, because that makes most sense. However, it is coming up to summer, and as you know, in summer the charts do get a little bit different. You have to adapt to them. There's less people trading, especially right now with all the corona stuff going on. There's less people in the office, that sort of thing. So you just got to take it into account that things that you think might happen, or scenarios that look familiar to you, might not go the same way as you would normally assume they would go. And you've just got to look out for what the market is telling you, take into account all the areas of importance that you can, and just understand what it wants to do, and understand that if it moves in a certain direction, it is telling you something. And we're just going to wait and see what happens with this one here. So if we move on to NZDUSD, let's just move out of this a little bit. Okay, so again, it's been like ranging for a while. Right now we've got this kind of miniature wedge going on. Let's just put that here. Okay, so right now we've got this kind of mini flag, not a wedge, forming. If I just try and make this as accurate as possible. Okay, so we've got this kind of mini, I should push that in, really like thin wedge going on. It's kind of broken out here, but decided it doesn't want to break out. So if you just go into the 5-minute chart, see what it's doing. So we had a lot of momentum here, bullish wise. Then we came back down with these 3 soldiers. In terms of wicks, they're all pointing very much downwards. However, there was a doji here, but then again, it was cancelled out by these 3 soldiers. So I wouldn't touch it right now, personally. I think I would wait for it to break this area here. I think if it breaks this kind of area here, then it's most likely going to collapse and come back into our pattern. If not, if it decides to come upwards back to here, it's most likely going to continue to rise. So if I just put an area here as well. So this is why we use the 5-minute chart to decide whether we want to enter this or not, because on the 4-hour chart, if we just go back onto it, it looks not too promising right now. However, if we go on to the 5-minute chart, you can see that there is still hope. And you just make areas of importance of where you think, you know, what makes the most sense. So if it does break this area, it's more than likely going to continue going up, and that's a good sign for entry. If it breaks this area and goes back down, it's most likely going to come back into our pattern, and it's not going to go in the direction we want it to go. So it's just important to be patient with it, especially with these type of patterns that are really like small and complicated. And it's just about broken. It's not been like a really nice clean break or anything like that. It's just very all over the place, wishy-washy. So it's important to just take that into consideration. So let's just put that there. Let's put that there. Okay, we've got USDCAD as well. I literally just had a look at this before I jumped on. So we've got this area of importance here. It's got this triple top here. We've literally bounced a 3rd time now. So we just want to wait and see whether it's going to do the same thing as Euro USD, basically, whether it's gonna decide to bounce down, fake out, and then go all the way back up, or whether it's just gonna come back to this area that all the other ones have gone to. So as you can see, it's gone up to here, then this one's gone up to here, and now this one either is gonna come up to here or midway around this area where we can see a lot of resistance and wicks. It's gonna decide that it wants to come back down, pretend to break out, and then come back into this pattern. So again, it is just going to be about waiting to see what its reaction is. We ideally want another pattern within this. Let's just put this here like that, just to give us an insight as to what is going on. Okay, so we've got this forming here. It's kind of a rising flag pattern within this like a ranging area. So we just want to see what it is going to do. Of course, if it wants to break out, we're going to take that into consideration, especially just depending on what way, like we had here on USDCAD, this kind of pattern forming. It broke out once, faked out, and then decided to, boom, just collapse. And then we've got that line there. So we had the same kind of formation here, and it decided to break out downwards. Most likely going to happen again, because trading history loves to repeat itself, whether it's prehistoric or whether it's 2 minutes ago. It loves to just, there's only so many ways that it can go, and it loves repeating itself. So it's just something to take into account as well for this week. Then we've got USDCHF. So it's broken this kind of pattern here. If we just go like this, so it broke it here, faked out, came back in. As you can see, USDCHF in general always has a lot of wicks anyway, so it can be a bit harder to read than a lot of other currency pairs. However, I just put this in the group chat as a buy, because if we go into the 5-minute chart, you'll be able to see I went based off the idea that bullish momentum was a lot more sustainable than bearish momentum, especially when it came down to retest and we had this big doji, and then boom, we shot all the way up. It is a really nice way of showing us that it wants to push upwards. So as you can see, the stop loss, let's just put this here. So if you entered here, stop loss is literally like 12 pips, and take profit is about 30. So it's what 1 to 3 ratio. I think about in percentages and things like that. So it is a smaller trade than normal, but it's still something to take into account. Could be a nice Monday morning trade, just an easy one, that sort of thing. And you know, if it does hit stop loss, then we're not going to be hurt because it's only 10 pips. But yeah, it's just depending on what it wants to do now. I'm in it personally. It's just about waiting to see what it wants to do now. Then we've got USDJPY. So USDJPY has been an annoying pair this week. It just doesn't know what it wants to do. It keeps creating patterns and then not conforming to them. So we have this one right here. If we just put that there, so we've got a massive flag going on. If we just look here as well, we've got this sort of wedge going on, which is just broken now. Now if we take into account that DXY, let's just see what direction it wants to move in. Ideally, DXY should come up to about here, especially the fact that it's gapped upwards, showing that there's been a lot of bullish momentum in the upwards direction over the weekend. So let's just go back to USDJPY right now. So this would make the most sense to get into a buy. However, if we just look at the 5-minute chart and see what it is doing. Okay, so again, right now we want to see if it's going to break this area here. If it does, maybe we won't enter. If it breaks this area here, then we're going to go in for the buy. As if it passes this area, it's more than likely to continue going upwards. If it come past this area downwards, realistically it's probably going to continue going downwards. So if we just go back onto the 4-hour chart just to see where it's going. Yeah, so again, we're just going to wait for entry. If we do enter, stop loss will go around, let's just make this like that. Stop loss will go around here. Take profit will be around there, around this area here. So if we just look at that, again, really small trade, 13 pips. And then if we just take it up here, we've got 40 pips here. So around 1 to 4, risk to reward. Of course, you guys already know how I feel about risk management. Most important thing, you need to be using it. So again, just going to wait for this 5-minute chart and see if there's going to be a way for us to enter, what it wants to do, what it decides to do, if it's going to come all the way back here and drop, or whether it breaks this, and then we can go in for a buy. And then we have the long-awaited gold. So gold, let's just see what it's doing on the 4-hour chart, of course. Okay, so gold has been in this wedge for like the last 2 weeks. It's really annoying me. I just want to see what it's going to do. So if we just go here, let's make this accurate. Okay, so gold has been in this wedge for like the last couple days, 10, not even 10 days, but about a week. It's been in this kind of formation. Realistically, we want to see gold shoot upwards, but we've just got to wait and see. Realistically, gold does love patterns though. Out of all the currencies, gold is one of the pairs that loves to just conform to patterns and be there with it. So we really just want to wait and see what this does. Of course, we're gonna, before we enter, even if it does break, we're gonna look for confirmations, things like that. Just make sure that there's no news going on. So if we just refresh this and see what's happening today, because we've got Euro bank holiday, GBP bank holiday. So today Euro and GBP are going to be slow moving. Nothing of much importance going on there. Again, nothing much of importance. Okay, so USD on at 4 p.m. might be important on Friday. What have we got? Tuesday at 10 p.m. might be interesting. But apart from that, this week is going to be fairly quiet in terms of news reports. So it's going to be mainly technical analysis from here on out. Obviously, if you're someone who's fundamental and you've used Bloomberg and things like that, it's in more depth. But if you're someone who's more technical, then you don't have much news to worry about ruining your setups right now. But yeah, pretty much that is what I'm looking at this week. Let's just highlight these two as well, see what it wants to do. Let's go on the 5-minute chart, check this one more time. Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna wait and see what everything wants to do for this week. But then again, it's still Monday, so it's still early, and everything will probably start moving properly throughout the night and tomorrow. So we just gotta wait and see what is happening. But apart from that, that is pretty much everything for this week that I'm looking at. If anyone has any questions, obviously please ask. And if you don't trade the same way as me, then obviously you're going to have your own take on your perspective for this week. But this is for anyone that just wants to see what I'm doing or what I'm looking at and how I trade. But yeah, apart from that, I'm going to leave it here and hope everyone has a profitable week.